All right, welcome to another episode of Asset Coach and Tax Strategist. And so, pretty excited about the next few episodes. What we're going to do is the last few episodes, we talked about financial statements, what an asset is, what a liability is. But the reason why we set it up those foundational content in those videos first is we want to go through the next step of the foundation of really what we do as planning and understanding how to build wealth and reduce tax liability, asset coach and tax strategist. And so what we're going to go through these next couple videos, these next couple sessions is my book Economic Termites, just released this year, 2024, the second edition, and just kind of went through a revamp and a redesign. And the reason why we want to go through the foundation of Economic Termites is because there's certain aspects in Economic Termites that we want to discuss. We want to talk about the cash flow quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. Very important, understanding the basics of where you're at in your situation as whether a business owner or wanting to be a business owner, or you're a certain business owner and you want to take it to the next level and get to the next quadrant, so to speak. How do you do that? What's that look like? So we want to go through the cash flow quadrant a little bit. We also want to talk about an understanding cash flow. We want to understand the types of income that are out there. And the reason why we want to do that is because what that's going to do is that's going to lead us into the next few episodes of talking about what economic termites are. The 5 termites, 4 of them are in the book. So we'll have a session on taxes. We may have a couple depending on how in depth we get. Most of us know what taxes are, or more specifically, we know what they do, right? We know of them. It's kind of like an acquaintance. We know of so and so, but we don't know them. We'll find that to be the same with taxes. Most people are an acquaintance with taxes, and they've made a judgment based on that acquaintance experience, but not necessarily how taxes and what taxes do and what they work and how really you can actually control those. We'll talk about inflation, what that looks like, historical inflation, current inflation, and future inflation. And really that will tie in some of the Federal Reserve and what the Federal Reserve talks about and what their goal is. And so we'll spend some time talking about that. Then we'll talk about the economic termite time. A lot of advisors, financial planners talk about time, dollar cost averaging, that sort of stuff. But we're actually going to talk about how to buy back time. How in planning and how strategically looking at assets, what type of assets, looking at taxes of those assets, and building out an overall plan, how you actually can buy back time. We work with a lot of doctors who give up the first decade of their career essentially to learn more and be better educated in the field of doctoring, and then their specialty, of course. And then they go out into practice. And so, and then once they're in practice, we find a lot of times doctors are just dissatisfied with the medical environment. And so what ends up happening is that they actually don't want to work to 65 and a half, 70, 80, what previous doctors used to do. They used to, like most of us, we wouldn't quote unquote retire. We would just kind of die in our career. It was who we are. Now it's more of what we do than who we are. But so they have this truncated time frame of earning years and saving years combined, to lead to retirement, so to speak, or exiting doctoring. And now they're in the spending years, meaning they're retirement and they're not generating income. How do you set up a plan to where you can eliminate all that, where you can buy back time? And not only buyback time, but when you do decide to change careers or slow down or work less or spend more hours with family than work, how do you continue to generate more wealth and lower your taxes in that environment? And so that's what we'll discuss. And then the last termite, which really is kind of the evil termite, the queen bee, so to speak, of termites, is laws and regulations. Our politicians, how they change the rules midstream. Will follow rules for years and sometimes decades, and then they change the rules. And you've been following these rules, and all of a sudden that rule change affects your wealth and what you've done to accumulate your wealth. And so that's a big issue. And so how do you prepare and understand what to do and what's looming in the future, right? And so the best way to tell the future is by looking at the past. And so what we're going to do is spend a little bit of time talking about that. And then the last termite, number 5, is debt. So we talked a little bit about debt in liabilities. What are liabilities? Debt is not in the book because really that can take its own book on its own. And really each of those termites, we could do that, right? But debt is really, I think there's a lot of misconception about debt. And we hear from a lot of quote unquote experts that debt is really bad. And it's the type of debt that's bad and what your purpose of that debt could be bad or good. And so that's what we want to kind of focus on and understand. And so anyway, so we're going to use my book, Economic Termites, as our guide, so to speak, as we go on this journey. And we'll have a link down in the description for you into the Amazon cart to where you can have, you can purchase my book if you want to follow along. It can be Kindle or it can be paperback. It's up to you how you want to do it. As you can see, it's 134 pages. Not that it's not extensive. It's a very easy read. It's broken down in 2 sections. The first section is more technical, and that's what we're going to go over in these sessions. The second section is the first section, but in storyline. 2 brothers meet with an advisor, an asset coach, tax strategist, and goes through the process and the steps that we talk about in the first section. Okay, so every reader is different. All right, so that's really the goal. So let me bring it up here, and we're gonna go through. Excuse me. We're going to go through economic termites and really dive into understanding what this looks like. So let's look at this in a breakdown. So in the beginning, we're going to talk about the beginning foundations. I don't know if you've ever read Malcolm Gladwell's book Outlier. He talks about the 10,000 hour rule. Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, which we'll discuss, and then the richest man in Babylon, the key rules to successful wealth building. We won't spend a lot of time on the richest man in Babylon, but really going to focus more time on Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. I think that's going to be important. And then in other sessions and other videos, we're going to talk about assets and their stages, the 3 stages of assets. There's actually 4 stages of assets, but we talk about 3 here. The beginning, or your contribution stage, when you start an asset, as the asset accumulates, is the second stage. And then depending on the type of asset, the distribution, the income, and what that looks like, and how to organize those assets based on the rules of those assets, based on your tax and what your cash flow you need and what that looks like. And then so we'll talk about that. And then in other sessions, we'll talk about opportunity costs and the types of income, revenue, lifestyle income, non-lifestyle income, what's positive cash flow versus taxable income, and the basic income formula. So we'll talk about the basics of that. So that's going to be pretty, I think that's very exciting because it's very important that these words are used interchangeably: revenue, income, profit, gross profit, net profit, cash flow. Those are all terms that are used by, when I find working with business owners and having conversations with doctors, they use these words incorrectly. And so a lot of times when we're having conversations, we have to do more corrective of, well, do you mean this? And like, oh, yeah, well, that's not what the word you're saying, right? And that's normal, right? So I'll give you an example. We have certain idioms in our culture. So for example, cash is king, right? We hear that all the time. Cash is king. Actually, cash is not king. Because if cash is just sitting, think about this. Think about your situation. If right in front of you, you had a stack of $1,000, cash is just sitting there. What is that $1,000 worth? What just that cash sitting there? Nothing. It's a light paperweight, right? It's not worth anything until you do something with the cash. Now you can go buy something. You can go buy a phone with that cash. You can actually use that cash and put it into an asset and grow that cash to more cash, and it can appreciate more. So it's really what you do with it. If it's just, cash is king, cash just sitting there doesn't mean anything. Now the flow of cash is king. And the best way I use is as the analogy of a body of water, right? So let's imagine. So you imagine this. So you're walking along or driving along. You see this a lot of times. There's a body of water off to the side, and that body of water has it's gross because you can see the algae and the growth and I mean, if you walked up to it, right, it'd have that odor. There would be a lot of bugs around it and stuff. You wouldn't go in it, right? No, there's no way you would do that, right? So, but here's what's interesting. Now, if you were to take a hose and you were to put running water into that body of water, what would happen? Well, the movement of the water, the flow of that new water would cause the old water to flow. And what ends up happening is that algae will start dissipating. The smell goes away. When the algae goes away, the bugs go away, right? Now, you're not going to go drink that water or anything like that. But the point is that the flow of cash is key. And so I heard Grant Cardone say it really best. And other people since I heard that have said it. I've heard them say it too. So I don't know if he coined this, but this is when I first heard it. And it's like, yeah, that resonates. You're not supposed to save cash. You're not supposed to have a savings account with cash just sitting in it and trying to be purposeful on its own. Okay. What you do is you store cash. And what you're doing is when you store cash, why do you store things? Because there's a purpose to use that, what's in storage, right? And so if you're storing cash, what you're doing is you're waiting to use that cash when you find the right asset. Okay. And so that's a key indicator and understanding of what do I need to do? So I'm going to store cash. I've stored cash. Now that's the old cash is king, right? Just sitting there. And really the reason why it's no good is because inflation, when you look at inflation, it will start deteriorating that cash, right? Actually, the Federal Reserve goal is 2% inflation. We'll talk more about that in our inflation video. So if that's the case, my cash sitting there is going to become worthless. You know, people save all these coins, right? In these big old used water bottle jugs, and they save all these coins for what? You're losing value. That there's pride in how many coins I've collected, but you're losing the value of those coins. So those coins, if you're saving those coins or whatever, well, turn them into cash, store the cash, and put that take that cash out of storage and put it into an asset. Then you can say, oh, I bought this asset with all these coins. Take a picture of it. This were all the coins that I saved up over the years. I decided that they were going to become worthless. I was losing value. I turned them into cash. I stored the cash. And then I just found a right asset to take the cash out of storage and put it into this asset. And this is a result of this picture of all these coins. That's a story. That's awesome, right? That's what we want to hear. So we need to understand this aspect of what we're talking about. And so idioms, there's another idiom, you know, in sports and football, the three yards in a cloud of dust. That was one of I think it was Vince Lombardi would say that, you know, that was a term he had coined, and I could be wrong. So if I'm wrong, please put in the comments who it was. But anyways, 3 yards. So if you think about the football, and now I understand the point of what he's saying is that we're going to play tough, hard neck. We're going to put our head down. We're going to run through the middle. We're going to play tough, strong, manly man football, right? But when you look at the rules of football, 3 yards and a cloud of dust, you get 4 downs. 3 yards, first down in 10. After your first down, you got 3 yards. What is it? 2nd and 7. 2nd down, 3 yards. Now what is it? 3rd and 4 yards, right? Now it's 3rd down. What do? You run, you get 3 yards. What's that? What's that? 4th and 1. 4th down, 1 yard to go. Statistically, what happens to most teams if they're in the middle of the field? They punt, right? They punt. Or if they are they're not in the red zone, right out the red zone, they may go for a field goal. So they're going to try to get 3 points. But the point of football is to put points on the scoreboard. Yeah. But it's the end zone that is the most valuable, right? You get more points with that big piece of real estate at the end of the field. You get 3 points if you can get the ball through this smaller upright. Shouldn't you get more points for that and less points for the large piece of real estate? No, because it's hard because of this mentality of 3 yards on a cloud of dust. Doesn't make sense. I understand the point being made. I understand the point being made saying cash is king. But when it comes to planning, when it comes to what we're talking about, accumulating wealth, building wealth, saving money on taxes, reducing your tax liability, having those fraternal twins, that parallel path of those two things, words are very important. The definitions of the words are very important. So I just want to make sure I stress that, because as we go through this process of understanding economic termites, and we may take this leap into the second book I wrote, Farming Assets, which I published last year. And the reason being is that utilizing the analogy of assets and farming and understanding the type of asset is very similar to the type of farming certain types of crops. So anyways, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I want to take us through this process. It's very important understanding this foundational level of understanding. Why? Because if you ever go and talk to somebody like us, an asset coach and tax strategist, you decide, hey, I've listened to Bob for 9 years. Please take action before that. But let's say I finally want to, I want to hire Bob and his team. Awesome. I want you to understand our language. I want you to understand our process. That's why we're giving it to you here. Okay. So anyways, so go down in the link below, go ahead and click Economic Termites, buy the book. And then that way you can go along the videos. As we go through the videos, you could write down notes. I use books as they're like textbooks, right? So when I buy a book, I'm writing, I'm highlighting. I'll give you an example. So I just fit this most recent book that I finished, Darren Hardy, great. He owns Success Magazine, The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. Great book for entrepreneurs and just kind of understanding the process. But it's like a textbook. So I write notes, I highlight stuff. So I mean, my pages, right? I underline stuff, I star stuff and underline it so I can go back. I have notes in the columns. It's my textbook, right? And when I don't have a pen, I highlight, right? Or I don't have a highlighter, I use a pen. So use economic termites as a textbook. Go through, write down notes, think about your own situation, write down questions. Okay. So this isn't very important. That's how the learning process works. Okay. Don't just read to read and say, oh, I finished a book. Yeah, great job. Congratulations. That's important. But what are you going to do with it? So the other idiom is knowledge is power. The heck it is. You can grab all the knowledge, do absolutely nothing with it, sit there, and you're what? You're a knowledge log. You're a log with tons of knowledge. Makes zero sense. I understand the point of what it's being said. Knowledge is power, but it's the implementation of the knowledge that's power. Okay, we're human beings. We do, not just human. We're not human staying, right? We're human being. You got to be, you got to do. And so that's what we want to make sure. Our whole goal with Terra Firma is to move forward. Even, you know, we have one of the when we work with our team and our leaders, we do our L10 meetings and stuff. One of the things we talk about is that, sure, there are moments where we're not going to have the success that we normally have, right? The failure and success. Okay. And so we're going to use that term failure. What do we want to do? We want to fail forward. We want to learn our lesson moving forward. We always want to be moving forward, right? We want to be that running back or the receiver who's getting tackled, but they're getting an extra yard when they get tackled forward. Okay, we don't want to lose yards. We don't go back, right? So we want to take these moments of education, these moments of learning. That's the knowledge is power, is that when something doesn't go the way we want to take that, store it, and then use that knowledge as we make the next decisions. Okay. So join me on this journey. I'm so excited. This episode was just kind of laying the foundation. What are we going to do? I'm fired up. And so you have enough time to go ahead and buy the book. And what great about Amazon is what they deliver like the next day. So, so buy the book. Hey, share this video with some friends, family, and share it with your adult kids, whatever. Buy the book, give it to them as a gift. It's like $8, $10, whatever it is. And go through this session. All right. It's like our own little book club. Welcome to the Asset Coach and Tax Strategist Book Club. And the goal here is to build knowledge, store this knowledge so we can start making decisions and implementing that knowledge into doing what? Accumulating, growing your wealth, and reducing your taxes. Okay. But there again, we gotta plow the field, we gotta prep the field for growing, and that's what we're doing. So it's gonna be hard work. It's gonna probably be a little tedious, boring, or like, oh well, who cares? The result is the harvest, right? That's what we're doing this for. If you just think you're just going to walk on a field and all of a sudden stuff's going to grow, that doesn't happen. You got to prepare the field for the harvest. And there's a period in time between preparing the field and the harvest that we need to go through. And that's what we're going to do. So thanks so much for joining me. Go ahead and give me some thumbs ups. Go ahead and subscribe if you hadn't. If you subscribe, then what's going to happen is when we drop these videos every Thursday, we may drop some bonus material between the week, but you'll get notified. And so then okay, there's a new video and you can go take, how YouTube works and these channels work. So that's why you want to subscribe. And then down in the notes, go ahead and click on the link and get your own copy of your own economic termites book. All right. So thanks so much. Appreciate it. And best of luck and have a great day. God bless.